Okay, so today we're jumping into a story that doesn't just push the boundaries of what's humanly possible, it totally demolishes them. Seriously. It's a story about a goal so ridiculously big, so completely unbelievable, that it really makes you ask, what are we actually capable of? And who gets to decide where our limits are?
It all kicks off with this number, 50. The plan was to complete 50 full-distance triathlons. Now, just to wrap your head around that, for most pro athletes, finishing just one of these is like the crowning achievement of their entire career. The goal here was 50 of them. But wait, it gets crazier. The challenge wasn't just about the number of triathlons, it was about where. We're talking 50 triathlons, one in each of the 50 US states. I mean, can you even imagine the logistics, the travel, the coordination, just the absolute chaos of moving that whole operation across the country every single day?
And here it is, the final piece of the puzzle, the part that just sounds, well, cruel. 50 triathlons in 50 states, all packed into 50 consecutive days. No breaks, no rest days, no time to recover. Just a relentless, nonstop grind.
So to really feel the weight of this, let's just break down what one single day looked like. You start with a 2.4-mile swim, then you hop on a bike for 112 miles, and you finish it all off with a full marathon run. You know, a casual 26.2 miles. Like I said, elite athletes train their whole lives for one of these. He wanted to do 50 in a row.
All right, so who is the person who would even dream up a challenge this insane? Well, this is the story of James Lawrence and how he went from being a completely normal guy to becoming literally an icon of human endurance.
And you know, that's maybe the most incredible part of this whole thing. James Lawrence wasn't some genetic freak born to do this stuff. He was just a regular guy from Calgary, Canada, you know, juggling a job, a family, the whole deal. Nothing about his early life screamed, I'm going to redefine what's physically possible for humanity. Not at all.
So, how does a regular guy become an endurance legend? You'd think the secret must be some crazy training regimen, right? But you'd be wrong. His real superpower was forged in failure.
Just look at this timeline of his early life. It's just a series of gut punches to his identity. First, he's a champion wrestler, he's got Olympic dreams in his sights, and then boom, an injury just snatches it all away. So he pivots, tries to find purpose on a mission trip to Paris, only to come home feeling like a total failure. Each one of these setbacks just stripped away who he thought he was supposed to be, leaving him at 23 feeling like he'd already missed his shot at doing anything meaningful.
And then the turning point came from the weirdest place you can possibly imagine, a 10-day Ferris wheel marathon. Yeah, you heard that right. The challenge was simple, just stay on the ride day and night. He wasn't the strongest or the most athletic person there, but he found out he had this one weird hidden talent. When everyone else gave up, he just didn't. He won simply because he was willing to outlast everyone else. He could just refuse to stop. That discovery really clicked into place during his very first marathon. His wife Sunny signed them both up, but he got injured and couldn't train properly. So on race day, guess what happened? Right at mile 16, exactly where his training had stopped, his body just completely fell apart. Every single cell was screaming at him to quit. But right there, in all that pain, he learned something profound. His body's limits felt like absolute commands, but they were really just suggestions.
And this led him to this powerful idea, a mantra that would define everything he did from then on. This single thought became the foundation for the whole Iron Cowboy journey. It didn't matter how much it hurt or how impossible it all seemed, stopping was a decision, and he could just choose not to make it.
Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate test of that philosophy, the 50-50-50 challenge. You see, this was never just a race. It was a 50-day live experiment to prove, once and for all, that his mind was stronger than his body.
And the physical price he paid was immediate and absolutely brutal. I mean, within just 2 weeks, his body was in total rebellion. He had a blister under his toenail that made every single step pure agony. He was dealing with internal bleeding, severe tendinitis, and exhaustion so deep he literally fell asleep while riding his bike and crashed.
The real breaking point, though, came in Virginia. His body just gave up. It stopped working. Food wasn't helping, rest wasn't helping, and in that moment of complete physical shutdown, he finally understood the truth of what he was doing. This wasn't about muscles and lungs anymore. It had become a purely mental fight against that voice telling him to quit.
So how did he keep going? Well, he couldn't do it alone. It was impossible. He had this system of lifelines, super meticulous recovery routines, mental tricks to break the massive goal into tiny, bite-sized pieces, and of course, the incredible support of his wife Sunny and their 5 kids who are out there with him every single day.
But what's really amazing is that his support system started to grow. This personal challenge started to become something bigger, pulling in complete strangers. A police officer who found him after that bike crash actually came back later in running shoes just to join him for a few miles. A man in North Carolina was so inspired watching him that he vowed to change his own life for his family. It wasn't just his race anymore, it became a movement.
When it was all said and done, the final numbers are just mind-boggling. We're talking about almost 100,000 swim strokes, 1.3 million pedal revolutions, and over 2.5 million strides on the run. He'd actually done it. He'd done the impossible.
But you know what? The story doesn't stop there. In fact, what happened after he crossed that final finish line was maybe the most surprising and difficult part of the whole journey.
See, he expected to feel this deep, lasting sense of fulfillment, right? Instead, he fell into a massive post-achievement depression. He expected glory and celebration, but what he actually felt was guilt over the sacrifices his family had to make. And physically, instead of being at his absolute peak, his body just crashed. He gained 28 pounds, had crippling joint pain, and serious brain fog. The very thing that got him through the challenge, that singular, intense focus, left him totally empty once it was over.
His real recovery, and what he now sees as his true purpose, wasn't about finding another, bigger race to run. It was about sharing his story. He realized that his greatest accomplishment wasn't actually finishing 50 triathlons. It was his ability to inspire other people to look at their own lives, at their own impossible goals, and start to question them.
So, after all that, what can the rest of us take away from this absolutely wild journey? How can the lessons James Lawrence learned the hard way help us redefine our own impossible?
Well, it really boils down to 4 key ideas. First, you have to reframe failure. Remember that wrestling injury? It felt like the end, but it was really just the beginning of a different path. Second, find your why. His own personal strength wasn't enough to get him through, but the idea that he was inspiring others, that was. Third, build your community. He literally could not have done it without his family and all those strangers who showed up to help. And finally, the big one, his core philosophy, just keep going. You have to remember that the urge to quit is just a feeling. It's a choice, not a command.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. James Lawrence proved that the limits we think are so real are often just walls we've built inside our own minds. So the real question his story leaves us with is a personal one. What's the impossible goal in your life that's maybe, just maybe, waiting for you to decide that it's not so impossible after all?